Okay, my science students, Mr. Michalski here, and the purpose of this video is going to be to review the cardiovascular system. I'm going to try to keep it short because YouTube doesn't like really long videos and they take a long time to settle down. But let's go through the stuff you need to know, alright? The purpose of the cardiovascular system, right, is to get oxygen and nutrition to every cell in your body, and to take carbon dioxide and wastes from every cell in your body. So because you're made out of trillions of cells, you can't just absorb that stuff like an amoeba. You have to have it sent to the cells through this pipeline. So you have a heart that's the pump, and then you have the arteries, which are the thick-walled blood vessels that carry blood from the heart to the rest of the body, and the blood pressure is very high in the arteries. So if you were to get injured, bit by a dog or something, and cut an artery, you bleed quite a lot. But if you were to get an injury, any other injury, and you cut a vein, you don't bleed very much. So you may have noticed sometimes you step on something sharp, or the dog bites you and you're not bleeding much. It's because it didn't injure any arteries. And then sometimes the tiniest little thing will bleed an awful lot, and it's because there's an artery nearby. Anyway, so the arteries divide and divide and divide and divide like the branches on a tree till they're so small that oxygen and nutrition can go right through them into your cells, and those are called capillaries when they're that small. It's kind of like the way Route 80 is a 10-lane highway, and then Route 10 is a 6-lane highway, and then and then Ridgedale Avenue is 2 lanes, and then your own road is very slow, and then your driveway is so small it doesn't even have a speed limit. But in your body, they reconnect back for the return trip to the heart through things that are called veins. And veins have relatively thin walls, and the blood pressure is very low by the time the blood is on its way back to the heart. So your veins have one-way valves that mean every time you flex a muscle or twitch or something, your muscles sort of squeeze the veins and force the blood back in the direction of the heart. Which is why if you stand still a long time, your arms or legs or your butt might fall asleep, because moving your muscles even slightly helps the blood get back to the heart. Okay, now the heart has the 4 chambers, right? The blood returns from the body to this one in the upper left of the picture, which is called the right atrium. And remember, with medical diagrams, the right and left always seem to be opposite, because it's like you're a doctor looking at the patient. So it enters on the bluish side of this diagram in the right atrium. It goes through a valve into the right ventricle. The right ventricle is the big muscular part at the bottom of the heart, and that sends the blood to the lungs. And in the lungs, it gets refreshed with oxygen and gives up its carbon dioxide. Then it comes back from the lungs into the left atrium, then the left ventricle, and then back to the body. So when you're listening to a heartbeat, the loud part of the heartbeat is the 2 ventricles contracting, and the softer secondary beat is the atriums contracting. So it's atrium ventricle, atrium ventricle, atrium ventricle. The 2 atriums contract at the same time. The 2 ventricles contract at the same time. Da-doon, 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 da-doon. Okay? Here's an interesting thing. If you've never tried to find your pulse, you could put your thumb on your wrist till you feel your heartbeat. Some people put their index fingers to the side of their neck on the carotid artery, and they can feel the pulse. Or sometimes if you just stand calmly still, you can feel your pulse. If you look at a clock with a second hand, or a digital clock that's beeping seconds, and count the number of heartbeats in 15 seconds, then multiply times 4, that's your heart rate, because that's how many beats per minute. And a resting heart rate is somewhere around 60 or 70 beats per minute. That's a woodpecker making noise in my yard. Red-headed woodpecker. Now, if you're in good cardiovascular shape, you should be able to do jumping jacks or jog in place or do something really active for a whole minute, and then when you stop and take your pulse again, your heart rate will be much higher. Like my resting heart beats somewhere between 65 and 70. When I do jogging in place for a minute and then take my pulse again for 15 seconds and multiply times 4, my heart rate goes up to like 75. But it doesn't go up too much. And then the next thing is it should go back to normal like within a minute or so. It should go back to its resting thing. If you're not in good cardiovascular shape, your heart rate goes way higher when you do stuff like climb the stairs or run for something, and then it stays beating hard for a long time. So you have older relatives or out-of-shape uncles and stuff, they climb the stairs and they're like, give Uncle Joey a minute here, I got to catch up with you. Well, their heart rate's not going back to normal very quickly. They could do with a bit of exercise. Okay, so what else have we got? So know that if you want to exercise your heart and burn off cholesterol to stave off heart disease, aerobic exercise is what you want to do. Okay, lifting weights and stuff is exercise, but to really exercise your heart, aerobic's the way to go. Jogging, riding your bicycle, swimming, jumping on a trampoline, jumping jacks, calisthenics, all that stuff. And in workout rooms they call it aerobics, right? So that's the kind of stuff that exercises the heart. What you want to do is keep the heart beating efficiently and make sure that cholesterol and stuff is not building up like gook inside your arteries and veins. Now, at your age, heart disease and cholesterol is not usually the issue. But by the time you're like 18, 19, 20, if you have a doctor telling you your cholesterol is high, you better listen and try to do something about that. Okay, I have reviewed cardiovascular problems with you in another video. You could check that out. I don't want this video to go too long. Remember that HIV/AIDS is a disease affecting white blood cells. Your white blood cells are what fight germs, viruses, and bacteria, and HIV deactivates your white blood cells. It takes away the army, okay? Anaerobic steroids. This is something from back in the last section. We were talking about bones and muscles. Anaerobic steroids are used to build muscle mass. And there are people with diseases and disorders where their muscles get weaker and weaker, and a doctor may prescribe them anabolic steroids. But it's dangerous to take them, to misuse them, just so you can build up muscles in the gym, because your heart's a muscle. And the steroids will also build up your heart muscle in a bad way, because your heart is a strong muscle, but it's supposed to be very thin and flexible. And if your heart muscles get thicker, they can't beat as well, and they're also got a smaller opening inside for the blood to go through. So people misusing anabolic steroids risk dying of heart failure, all right? So look over your notes about cardiovascular problems, atherosclerosis, that's hardening the arteries. If this happens in the tiny arteries feeding your heart, that can lead to a heart attack, and if it happens in the little arteries feeding your brain, that can lead to a stroke. Know the difference between that. Know the difference between a heart attack and heart failure and a stroke. High blood pressure, causes of high blood pressure, all right? It's a bit noisy out on the street. It's time for me to say goodbye. I may give you that quiz tomorrow, but you'll have 2 days to do it. Today you're getting a review assignment, and that's going to be graded like a homework or classwork thing, all right? Be well. Don't be in a rush to undo this quarantine. Listen to the governors. Listen to the medical people. And we're just going to do this for another several weeks. So be well. I hope everybody in your family's doing all right. And I'll see you when I see you.